Today, we are taking a moment to imagine. Imagine living the life of our dreams, leading and feeling fully ourselves while being loved through it all. So, have you been wondering what it would be like to live more of yourself, not dimming or covering by the masks that we've learned to wear? Being able to bring more of our light, our true essence into work and relationships while allowing space for yourself to work through the tender, the messy parts. If so, this conversation is going to be for you. So today I am having a very special guest here with me to weave in this conversation, just a beautiful, magnetic woman who stands in her power, her grace, and is a rising feminine leader, strategic seer, and speaker. I have had the pleasure to meet her in a mastermind that we both shared and immediately felt drawn to her energy and saw the alliance and similarities in our message and the movement that we are creating and that we have really built. And so please welcome with me the dream woman, Matatea Changuy. Hi, Matatea.
Hi, Audra. Hi, listeners. Thank you so much for this invitation, Radiant Woman. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, I would love to start out this conversation just hearing a little bit, if you just want to share a little bit about the Dream Woman and your vision for her. And we'll just start off there. And then I can share a little bit more about this Radiant Woman and we'll go from there. So, who is the Dream Woman?
Where do we start? Well, I became my dream woman the first time I started choosing myself. And this is how you activate the dream woman who lives within every single woman. And this act of self-choice interrupted a pattern of self-abandonment that I had seen amongst all women in my life. I come from Tahiti, and in that culture is very much community oriented. So it's always the others first. Generosity, selflessness is glorified, but misunderstood as almost sacrifice, right? You think you're being generous, you think you're being tolerant or patient, but you're actually self-sacrificing. So the day I realized that there's something off there, and I started choosing differently, I started feeling something within me awaken, a light, and a part of myself that felt bigger. It's like that infinite self. And then I started becoming inspired. What if I keep choosing? What if I keep choosing? And then the meaning of choosing yourself evolves over time. It starts on the surface. You start saying yes when you actually mean yes, and you start saying no when you don't want to say yes to an invitation. But then it goes deeper and deeper. And so becoming my own dream woman has been so far a 21-year journey. It started when I bought a first one-way ticket out of Tahiti to find my own path. And then it got reinforced after my first marriage. I had a divorce. And then too, I was invited by life to choose myself again. Can I love myself? And can I not let that experience define me? Can I forgive myself? Can I choose myself over and over again and trust that this was preparation for something else.
Mm.
And then becoming my own dream woman, let's say, took a whole new other level when I became a mother, because all my identities came crashing and
Mhm.
I went through a full rebirth. And this is when I started seeing myself. I started asking myself who I am, who am I when I'm not giving, when I'm not of use to others. Who am I beyond my titles, my roles? And this is when I came out of the spiritual closet and fully came out as the dream woman, as this version of me who chooses herself, who's sovereign, who is devoted to her highest potential. And so from there, the Dream Woman movement was born as this global invitation to awaken every dream woman within, because I believe that our becoming is our greatest offering to the world. Because when we become fully ourselves and our highest possible version, operating on our highest timelines, we operate a totally different consciousness, and we're able to truly innovate and create new ways of becoming a parent, of a mother, or a partner. We redefine love. And in that way, we activate our partners as well to step into their dream selves. And together, you form a new unit, a new vessel of change that I call the dream family, where everybody gets to be their dream selves, their highest potential. And I believe that is the new model of change in the way to birth the new earth.
Ah, that is so beautiful and really powerful. I appreciate you sharing, and so many similarities as you were speaking, with my experience. And I find it interesting in that, right, you are sharing from being from Tahiti and within your culture, how things are. And so, I grew up in the Midwest of the US, and I had very similar experiences. And so I think I love how you shared that this is really globally, because as we are meeting and talking with women from all different backgrounds and all different cultures and places, there is this common thread, and really about, right, this choosing ourself. And that was really part of my journey as well, is being able to put myself first without it becoming a selfish thing. Or right, I know growing up, we praised the women, and I think of my mother and the praise that we gave of being selfless, and didn't really understand what that meant. And so I love that you shared so much about, it's this choice of choosing ourselves first, knowing that it's not to be self-centered, or in a selfish way that we're taking away from the other people that we are here to care for. Because as women, we naturally have the nourishing component of ourselves. Like right, that's right, I think at the center of even what you're sharing in your movement, because we have that, we want to give and offer to the people that we love, and people around us. And how just wholesome and beautiful that can be when we're doing that from a full place, from a place that we really have gone through the steps of learning about ourselves, and knowing who we are, like you said, beyond all of the external things. And the education, the certifications, the being a mother, like all of those things are beautiful, and we have a place and want those. But like you had mentioned, who is underneath it all? Because she's really who's leading and can direct all those other things. And I feel very honored and grateful to have been able to go through that journey, and I'm still on it. I think we always will be, right? That expansion continues on, while being able to give that space to myself to get to where I am now, and really being able to come out and shine as the radiant woman, and um, not giving from that depletion, that self-sacrifice. And now being able to then share that with other women, and stepping into a leadership, as you mentioned, the new way that we can change this for a greater amount of people, and let that ripple out across the globe, which is, I find, so exciting. And so I think it's so important, this message, for more people to hear. And the more that we're able to stand in that and go through that journey, then more women can come alongside and do the same. So,
Yeah, and I'm so curious about the origin story of the Radiant Woman as well. Like, when did you become her? Was there a specific event, a line in the sand moment that you just discovered this other way? And what also kept you going? Because when our external environment reinforces the opposite way, it's really hard. And so I wonder what kept you anchored in this. No, 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 this is the new way.
yeah. Well, now being able to look back, and I think I've shared this with you a little bit in our prior conversations, like I've always been her, that light, that essence within us, where there was that period of time that we forgot her. So I'm able to look back now, and from that childlike place, and be like, oh, that was totally her, right? And one of the things, like, I also had a similar experience of leaving the area that I grew up, and most of all of my family is in that region in the Midwest. And after college, after undergraduate, I moved to Florida, and really kind of started a new thing there, a new life there. And that was after I had met my now husband. But that was a huge step in knowing that that was my path, even though everybody, like everything I knew was in this one area, and it wasn't very common for people to leave that space. And so that was definitely one moment. I feel like it's been little sprinkles of moments throughout. Even before that, the when I was in college, making the decision to study abroad was something I had never done, and but it was following this inner knowing, this intuition has always been very important for me, and a high value. And so it was following these little nudges and moments of, like, even though nobody else knew what the heck I was good at, like, doing, or I didn't know, and they felt very big for me in my body, like, exciting but scary, right? But it was following those little things. And when I did, it always turned out to be a wonderful thing. Where what I found, really, where this radiant woman was born, and really where she came out, was a little later time. So after I had accomplished kind of the goal that I had set out for myself. So when I first learned of psychology, the last year of high school, I knew that was what I wanted to do. So I had cast this whole vision of the education I would need, and really what I wanted to do, to be in a place where I could offer support and counseling for people. And so I remember a moment when I had reached that goal. So that was probably, at that time I was still living in Florida, and uh, basically I had come to the end of that goal, right? I had opened a private practice. I had I was happily married, and probably somewhere in like 2018, 19 became challenging years. And then even 2021 was probably the lowest point where I had reached all of those things. And I'm like, well, why am I not? Why does life feel still challenging, or why am I not fully fulfilled? And that was when uh, I really had to face myself, really had to kind of come to terms with, like we're saying, who is underneath all of that. Because I have this beautiful life, I have good things that I feel happy about and grateful for. And there's more to me. And there's also a way that life can be more supportive of me. And that was when really I looked at a lot of the things that were out of alignment. So even uh, who I was acting as or becoming, I was like, this isn't really like there's masks, there's layers to uncover here. Who am I really? And that was also when I went through my own spiritual kind of rebirth of reconnecting to that part of me that had really been closed down from just not really having kind of all the answers to the questions that I had growing up in a very religious family, Christian upbringing, in the church, but I had more questions. And so I went through this whole process of really figuring out, who am I? What is it that I want? And what is the next vision? So externally with the goals, what's my intention for from here? And in the process of doing that, I was able to really meet myself in a deeper way and start building from there. So coming out of that place of, um, like you said, saying yes when I mean no, or saying no to actually things that would be the opportunity, because I wasn't able to really see myself in for who I am, but also the leader that I'm here to be. And right, dimming our light in that would be offensive to other people, or that would not allow their light to shine. And I've realized, right, and I think you touched on this, as we shine ours, that allows others to get brighter and theirs to shine as well. And so through that process, I my radiance returned, right? And then she started to be able to come out, and I could see then how the changes externally around me, it's, started becoming more evident as you spoke to how that can then help our marriage, or, as a mother for you, I am not, but they just how that ripple effect goes. And so yeah,
Yes,
and then from there it was like, this is my part of my work. And so then she's evolving from here.
that's so beautiful. And I see myself in so many, in so much of what you shared. As you were speaking, I was remembering how I was also everybody else's dream woman, but my own. I was perfect, yet so empty inside and
Mm.
disconnected, and had this what seemed to be the dream life. And this is where I think a lot of people get confused, and that creates a lot of suffering, um, and isolation. It's that they got all these things that they always wanted to. And yes, that can be understood as like the dream life. But I think where people stop in their thinking is that also a dream life, in my own definition, is a life that you choose, not one chosen for you. And so can we keep asking ourselves, like you said, like beyond what we see, there is more, right? More to me, more to life, more, but I can't access it. But can I keep going? And then this is when I believe that you unlock the truth, the light, the radiance within the next potential, the next timeline. And then this is when also we become forces of change. And you mentioned the ripple effect. And for me, this is really what kept me going when I really saw clearly the ripple is incredible. It's so powerful, right? Just us being this version of ourselves, how it gives so much permission to others to take more space, to light up, and to go after their own dreams, right?
Yes,
Isn't that a
yes.
beautiful world? And isn't that the world we want to leave behind for our children?
Mm, absolutely. And I loved what you shared about the things appear to be perfect or okay on the outside, right? More than okay, but in that that was something I realized like and I think for a lot of the people who will be listening to this and the women that I often encounter, they are able to keep it together or right, things look okay on the outside and they're okay until they're not,
Mm.
right? Until we give so much that it's chipping away at that while other people can look at you and not even maybe even notice or think anything is going on internally because we're able to show up and still do things in a way that we were kind of taught to do them. Right. And so I think it takes a lot of courage. And it also takes what you mentioned, the space to give ourselves to really look at that and to reflect on that and then uncover those layers to become more of ourself. Right. And I'm glad you brought it back to what kept, what keeps us going when it's challenging, because I think before going through that process, what keeps us going, and a lot of us is like that, it's that continue like forcing or hustling or going, but it's from that place of depletion. And after going through that process with yourself, and for me, and this might be a little unique to each of us, but we have an inner knowing. We all have that. And intuition is absolutely one of the most profound things for me to be able to follow. But we first have to be able to hear it or see it, know it, however that comes through to be able to do that. And that gets muted when we're not really living as ourself, or right, we haven't uncovered those layers. It's harder to hear that. Where that's something I feel like my whole life, and I'm able to see how I was able to follow those. And that's the part that is a little uncertain, or we don't have all the answers, or it might not be the most logical thing to do. Um, but as you do each of those, it's a something else unlocks. Like you said, that's the expansion, and then there's more of those. And what I've noticed now of being more in this radiance and in this kind of state of consciousness, I teach on a few different, like a progression of that. And but being able to come into this radiant woman is being able to listen to that more and just know that we have more supporting us than to help guide that as we take the actions. And so that has always been something that's kept me going and continues to help me expand and grow, is trusting ourselves, but trusting that inner knowing.
Yeah, 100%. And my philosophy is that the way I make decisions is that for direction, I follow my intuition, my heart, and for implementation, I use my mind. And I think we are so disconnected from our different centers of intelligence, or we keep them separate. We believe that, and I did that for a long time, society values the mind, how much we know, just information over wisdom necessarily. And so in the workplace, women tend to hide their intuition. I know in my former workplace that was not welcome. You don't say, I have an intuition or I have a feeling that we should go in that direction. That's not going to land
Mhm.
well. Um, but I have found so much liberation when you give yourself permission to make room for all of who you are. And that is what I mean also by making room for all of ourselves. Our different dimension is the intuitive, the, I don't know, other labels, but just all these different centers of intelligence. And I find that we feel so much more supported in life when we relearn how to use them as well. We don't choose
Mm,
them. We don't choose one over the other. We don't create separation. We don't create hierarchy. They are here for a reason, right?
yes.
And yeah, and sometimes maybe we were not taught how to use them properly. So they led to an unpleasant outcome, and that scarred us for life. And so we decided to exile this part of us. And then there's always this feeling of being fragmented.
Hmm.
And then we can never be that clear channel, that clear signal, right? Because it's split.
Yes. Yes. I love that you brought up the different types of intelligence. That deeply resonates with me and something that I like to speak to and bring in too. And it's this braiding of the two, or maybe more than two. But right, I love how you shared that the way that you make decisions is from that intuition, that inner knowing, and then combined with the implementation of it, right? Which is the action. I see that as very much a braiding of the two. And I think that is something that where when we bring up intuition or we talk about this kind of unseen type of intelligence, what can throw people off or even kind of where the resistance can come in is feeling no structure in that. And so it's like just that one. And I really believe that we're now in more of this integration uh, place where we need to bring those together because we do want some structure. We want to be able to use, like you said, our mind for certain things, but not without this side. And so bringing them together gives us the structure and the flow, gives us um, the intelligence, which is where the wisdom and the intuition lives, along with the aligned action and um, bringing things forth, right, where it actually can materialize into physically our lives, right? And so I think that's such a big part of this is being able to braid the two, right? But when we initially start that process, we have to, like, the logical brain and the mind is so strong and so loud that we do need to be able to uh, quiet that down so we can hear this part, right? And that really is our heart. So,
Yes,
um,
yes,
yes.
100%. And that made me think about the next evolution from there for me was actually unlearning linear thinking as well. And that was huge when I stepped into entrepreneurship. And because I was combining, I was doing, spiritual guidance, I was an entrepreneur, and also learning to be non-linear, like fully the feminine, right? And trusting that I could, that's how you collapse time. And like you said, still balancing everything. But I remember that piece of unlearning linear thinking was big for me because I had been so trained to think, okay, you first start here, then you go there, then you go there,
Yes.
Um, so that was huge permission slip for me.
Yeah. Well, and as you were talking about linear thinking, just in that, it made me think about the idea that just it's like this is right or this is wrong, right? It's just so absolute that there's only one way to do something. So I
Yes.
know when I stepped into uh, my practice, but right, being in business, And that was during like a huge part of my growing into myself was like a lot of what was I was learning wasn't landing for me, or I was having a hard time implementing it. And now I'm able to see why that was, is it was my own linear thinking, but just even the things that I was being presented with didn't let me align or flow to that part of me, that feminine part, the intuition part. And at that time, I didn't know how to braid those together, because I don't think that was that part of me was developed or fully alive yet. And so it was just taking on more information that didn't seem to be working for me as it was like other people would be able to do that, but it was sending me into kind of burnout, or the idea that, well, if I can't do it this way, there's no other way to do it. And so, right, which feels very limiting. And yeah, so I think just even being able to recognize that part of us and now being able to look at some of those things of, oh, I can incorporate some of that. And I'm still probably going to do it a little differently than what we've been, than some of the things that are taught. And that's where I think you're saying the collapsing time and the doing things that don't really, it's like, how did that happen? That doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't make logical sense of how some of the things that have unfolded. And yeah, so I really resonate with what you're sharing about, right? It's that just learning what our mind does, how it works, and then what place it has, how it can be useful to us without taking over.
Yes, yes, 100%. And on that note, I'm curious, how do you guide women back to their radiance? How do you guide them? How do you help them reconnect all these centers of intelligence in a way that their bodies feel safe to open up to that, and to keep going?
Yes, it's a great question because um, there's so many parts to it, right? But one of the things that I've developed in the system of how to show that so people can see, because I do think it's important, especially when we're so much using our mind, it wants to see some steps and progression of how to get there. And so first, I look at the our lens and what I call our frame. So our lens is really that outlook and view of how we're viewing ourselves, our others, and then the world. And so really looking at what is that mindset, um, because we might be coming from a place that feels more powerless, or we might be in that place that feels very much like I have to do everything on my own. And that go, go, go is the only way to get there versus the radiant woman understands that she's going to be taking actions, but that she's supported in that. And there's that the outlook that things are happening for me. And so each thing that I'm doing is there's something to take away from that and learn. There's something to also that's guiding me to what I need to encounter to get to where I'm going. And so first is working with that lens of how we're using our mind, how we're looking at things. And then with the frame, that's a lot of the work about coming into our body. So I think before being in our radiance, we're in a state of like it doesn't feel safe, right? Like you mentioned, or our body has been like on overdrive, or and so really understanding what does that even mean to be in our body? What does that mean to um, create safety around that? And there's different techniques and things that I use somatically, or, but without going into all of those details, it's really we have to have some space, right? And then working beyond the mind. So that's where some of the subconscious work comes in, so that we're training our body that it is okay and safe to show up in whatever our essence is, right? Or be able to recognize like the messy parts of us, the parts that we do have distortions in our thinking, or to be able to work through that. right? But yeah, so then combining those, that's what allows us to be a different version of ourselves and expands the consciousness that we're in to be able to view things differently, to be able to even then approach things differently and really regulate ourselves. So, work through the emotional piece that comes up as humans. And so that then we can move forward in whatever our path is, or whatever it is that we're trying to create.
I love how you map the inner world and make it super digestible and safe, because especially as women, we've been moved away and rewarded for moving away from our center, from our light, from our intuition, our truth. And so turning around is requires courage, right? And I love how you have steps. And it's, yeah, it just listening to you, I felt very safe.
I love that. Yes. And I think, right, our inner world is so complex. I've always felt that about mine. Like it's right. And that's the woman, like there's depth there. And so being able to try to organize that in some way so that we can digest it and understand it, I think has been very valuable for me. And so I'm loving that that also resonated for you.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned depth, because I remember in my own journey, my own liberation, or the liberation of my dream woman within, was also reclaiming my depth, all the layers, that I'm a layered woman, that I'm a complex woman. And this is not a bad thing. There's no need to have judgment. It's just who we are. And but it's again these messages that we're surrounded by that wants us to dim our light, dilute our essence, play smaller, forget
Mhm.
who we are, and not take too much space. The more invisible, the better.
Yeah. As you were speaking, it made me think of just even the differences in men and women and how this can help us understand our partners and them understand us so much better. In that we do all have the feminine component we're talking about. We all have that, right? And our men can also really come into that where just the difference. So, right, speaking to the inner world and the depth, um, you know, like even thinking of like my husband, like there's more of an external component there. And not to say like he absolutely has depth, but that it's different. And that a woman's inner world versus a man and the external, what he's providing or bringing forth or doing, there's a difference there. And I think that is a big part of us disconnecting from that
Mhm.
because we're looking like just even how we've been taught a lot, like in the mind or even with science. Like I highly value science, but there's art too, right? It's that integration again. And the same with men and women and being able to come together. And so I think that's part of why we have disconnected or hid that inner world, that depth of ours, because it wasn't as highly valued as like the output.
Yes, 100%. And that reminds me of the good girl conditioning, who wants young girls and then women to basically this idea makes us responsible for harmony, to be agreeable, to be pleasant. And within that framework, depth is not pleasant. Depth is too much, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so as we, I just can think of myself, a younger version of me, 18, 20, seeking love, seeking for seeking my own reflection in others, hoping somebody will tell me who I am, what's my purpose in life. You just do whatever you can, right, to get that love. And if that means simplifying yourself, you do it. But the cost is so high. But the good news is reversible. That is the
Yes.
good news. You can
Yes.
you can reclaim everything that you left behind.
Yes. And I think that can be part of the journey of letting go of past things that we're holding on to. You mentioned it earlier. I'm trying to think of the words that you used, but trusting ourselves again and letting go of anything that we're in our past because that it didn't serve a purpose. Like that going through that journey and then coming into this allows you to see this and we can see how that wasn't serving us, but that was part of the journey to get to here.
Yes.
And I love that you brought up harmony. I related so much to what you were sharing with just as young women, the things that we do or how we behave to try to figure that out. I think that's still so relevant for so many young
Mhm.
women um, right now. Now, what we know, we would, probably be doing it a little differently.
Yeah.
But the harmony, I think that we can bring in the harmony, but it's a different way, right?
Yes.
And it's not how you shared where it's dimming or sacrificing or even like contorting us to get that, but by leading with our power. And as you mentioned in your movement, then your masculine can meet you, then there will be a beautiful harmony that will be so much more wholesome than the one we tried to create the other way, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if the harmony is burdening one person, then it's not true harmony. It's just an illusion. It's just self-sacrifice disguised as, something greater.
Ugh, so that was so well said. Yes.
And I see so many women trapped in that. And so, yeah.
Yes. So, would there be any last things that you want to share of just what you would want women to know that are on this journey and that are on their way to becoming the dream woman, the radiant woman?
Mhm.
Any, yeah.
To remember that their dreams are not random, to remember that if they have visions, it's for a reason. And we have free will. We don't need to bring to life every single thing we see. As women, we're all seers, visionaries. So there's no pressure to do any of that, but just trust that if there's something in you that gets lit up when you think about something, giving ourselves permission to just dream out loud, to own those things because they're deep parts of ourselves. And I believe that dreams, true dreams, soul dreams, not borrowed dreams, not the dreams we were trained to have, true dreams never go away. And that's also how you know they're true. They're soul dreams. And they're just turned into grief without a clear story, like background dissatisfaction, just desire to, you're in your life, the beautiful life you work so hard to create, and yet you keep wanting to escape. So become curious about those and know that they're important for your own journey of remembrance and or your own journey of evolving into your next, like meeting your own power, meeting your own reflection, like seeing yourself clearly. For me, all of these things are prerequisite to reclaim these different parts of ourselves, including our dreams.
Mm, yes. I love that. And just to add to that, and what I'm hearing is that we matter, like you matter. And I love that you shared the true true dreams or true desires, is another word, the things that are in our hearts and deep within us that are true, that matters, and to give space for that. I love that you brought in curiosity, but that is the direction that will help direct us. And so just keep going in that sense versus not the go, 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 keep going, but like continue to foster that because you matter
Yes.
and the world needs us. The
Yes.
people we love needs us. And it's so much more fun and light and enjoyable doing it that way. It can be, right, it's a journey. So there's challenging times, there's all the different emotions, but it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. And I love that you brought this. We matter. What's in us matters. And this, the dreams, the truth, all of it, it's part of our light, right? So
Mhm.
reclaiming our radiance is just standing in that truth. What is the truth of my desires? What are my true dreams? What do I truly want? What do I not want anymore? And it's just peeling the untruths, and then the light comes out. So
Yes. So beautiful. This conversation has been amazing. It's filling me up as we are talking about it. So thank you so much for joining me today. I would love before we close just to hear more about how women can work with you, connect with you, and maybe just even a little bit about what you have going on right now if people would like to step into your space and experience more of you.
yes, thank you. Um, so you can contact me through Instagram. That's the easiest way. And I love a good voice note and getting to know everybody. And moving from that place, because the dream woman journey is a journey. And so I meet you where you are. But the way I like to work with people is a one-on-one. I like to go deep. And I think women have such full lives, and having a space where they can just process and breathe and go within but also outwards, because for me it's important that we're not just a dream woman within, so we don't stay in. So I like to combine the inner work with outer action as well. So I really like working on these two parts, the inner world and the outer world, and the translation, because I believe that the future cannot be born without dream women. So it is my mission to activate the dream woman within. And I like to do that through just a one-on-one limitless space
Mm,
where you can remember all that you are, and I can hold you in the limitless frequency, and grow your dreams with you, dream out loud. And so from there, what I like to offer is that I like to invite you, for those in relationship or have a family, into the dream family experience, where as the dream woman, I support you to activate your dream partner and create a joint vision where both of your highest potential can exist, so that you don't have to constantly feel like you're taking from the other, but you build a structure, and you you build clarity. Clarity is so powerful, and it saves you so much energy and time that you can redirect towards co-creation. And in that space, I facilitate with my husband, my own dream man. In that space, we get clear on everybody's true desires and dreams and what they each need to be supported in that journey.
mm. I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, so that's my family experience, because ultimately the dream woman is just a starting point. Um,
Yes.
Ultimately, we're going all the way to the new world. And for me, it's really children. And is supporting parents to remember their power, remember their true reflection, remember who they are, so that the children don't have to forget.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful and so needed and really, truly life-changing and expansive work that you're doing, Matatea. And so I just so appreciate you and all of the work that you're doing to serve the women and the family and the whole unit. I absolutely love that. So we'll be sure to share your information so that people can find that. And my information will be down below as well so that everybody can connect with us and we can just continue doing this amazing work.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for this beautiful conversation, Audra.
You're so welcome. Thank you. We'll see you guys again next time.
Bye.